Good evening, guys, and welcome to DES116. I'm sure you have missed me greatly. Me and my voice sounds a lot better today. Still really dry, still kind of bruised, but we're moving right along, and I will hopefully see some of you after Coffee Creatives tonight. So what we're going to do right now is go over any issues from last week. We're going to talk about the big four and then adding color to it. And the big four, as we know, is contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. We like the big four a lot. We're going to do some feedback for week one. We're going to talk about the mock-ups that were done and the poster assignments. And then we're going to jump into demos for week two. I hope to get through till 8 o'clock tonight. If not, we will just go on straight through 2 hours and then meet again tomorrow night, which is Thursday from 6 to 8, because I do have Intro to Mac at 5 p.m. tomorrow night. So, and I do know you guys have been waiting a long week, so we're going to get into this so you guys can get your discussions in. Don't worry about the late penalties this week. I will take care of it. This is, my health issues have interfered with your education, and I see no reason to hamper you guys with that. So who knew bronchitis could be so hard to get over? Anyway, as we move on, so our learning objectives this week are to define hues, tints, tones, and shades of color, discuss the role color plays in the Big Four design principles, and then describe cool and warm colors and color schemes. And I have a special treat for you guys when 6 o'clock rolls around. We are going to jump into a new tool that I am quickly becoming to love on my phone. It's an Adobe product, so we will be talking about Adobe Capture about an hour into the lecture tonight. So it does help you come up with color schemes on your own. Yeah, color schemes on your own by what's surrounding you. So it can get pretty awesome. So the big four plus colors. How are we going to work with that? We've done black and white up until this point. So ideas, thoughts, that's where I want you to take a couple minutes here and think about that. The big four, when you think about color, you start thinking about contrast. It's the first one of the big four because of craft. Then you think, okay, contrasted colors are any colors that are directly opposite each other on the wheel. And you guys made all these beautiful color wheels last week. And yes, we are going to critique those tonight. But what I want you to think about is, does red is directly across the color wheel from green. Christmas colors, bright red, bright beautiful green. They are contrasting or complementary colors. They are meant to complement each other. Now, if you are using in the same tints, tones, shades, and hues, there could be a few issues involved. So, but we are going to talk about those. So contrasting grabs your attention, right? It's that wow factor we're all looking for. And we're using very high contrast colors. Now remember, there is such a thing as too much wow factor. To the point where colorblind individuals will not be able to see the different shades of color. They will just see black on black, or sometimes shades of gray. It kind of depends on the person and their ability to see. I know we have several colorblind students that are in the commercial art program, or not commercial art, but graphic art school. And they have a really hard time with this class because they're not sure whether or not the colors they're using, it could be red-green color blindness or something else that's affecting them. But I do know that there are tools out there to help find out whether or not they're, if you are having such issues. There are tools out there. My mother uses one. It's a bright orange piece of plexiglass that she puts over pieces of fabric, and if they both look the same under the orange, fluorescent orange plexiglass that she uses, then she has to pick another color so that she can see the tones. I personally don't see how this works because I get involved in the pattern of the fabric instead of just the color. But yeah, I could go in and pick out perfectly matched colors and start a quilt with, and for some reason she can't. I don't understand how that happened, but yeah. So if you're having trouble with that, let me know and we will work on it together and find you some helpful tools that'll make color theory and working with individual colors a little bit easier. So contrasting colors. So this orange is directly across this color wheel from bright blue. However, this has some really great contrast because we are having darker shades of orange in these paint swatches. We have some really nice light white text that is very easy to read. And then we have this seafoam teal green, blue green color in the background, which is contrasting very nicely with some of the darker oranges. So the fact that there are more lighter oranges doesn't really matter because we're looking at these on the outside for the darker for the contrast. And the Summer Sounds Festival 2016 text works very well with this. So I hope you guys are going to get to see this later. Don't leave me hanging. Okay, so repetition. Repeat elements. It's bringing familiarity and it creates patterns. As my brother has always said, it's patterns, and I'm going, no, patterns. Sound it out there, boy. My brother and I have a few issues. Of course, he also calls jalapenos jalapenos just to irritate me. My family has a strange language concept. So, repeating elements brings familiarity and creates patterns. We have repeating light bulbs in different shades and different colors, different tints and tones, but they're all on a very dark gray background. They're showing some of their glowing effect. And this is a Masquerade Music Park in Atlanta, Georgia for the luminaires. It's a very nice, clean picture that shows you some great color contrast. And it doesn't really have a pattern to it, but it's kind of got an implied pattern because they are repeating certain bulbs and making them bigger, making them smaller, or, you know, but they are using at least two different bulb styles, the yellow and the white, to get what they want, plus the glow around the background. Now, while we are on patterns, one of the FPAs in the chat group for Zoom mentioned a new website. So I'm going to show you guys this website. It is very cool. It's all about subtle patterns. And I have been playing around with it. Where is it? Where's my new share? Yeah, okay. Got the share. So all of these are for downloads. They're very nice, subtle patterns. You can preview them just by clicking in the center, and it shows what the background of your website would look like. Now, I can see a lot of potential for these. This is just a small group. That if you can create patterns like this that are subtle or really, really bold, then you aren't working yourself into a position where you can create more things for your design and create that repetition that you're looking for, even though it's not an intended repetition. So think about all those textures we talked about. I think I showed you guys last week some of the pictures I take out at Yellowstone Park. I'm the one looking at the algae and everybody else is looking at, ooh, there's a buffalo. Or as my youngest child used to call them, fluffabos. Apparently they are fluffabos in the park, and outside the park they're just a mess. And kind of agree with her there because they can block up traffic and nothing flat. So what we have going on here are a lot of different things that you can think of when you're coming into a pattern. And as I'm demonstrating these, some of them are so subtle you don't even see them. But we can create these in Illustrator. To do that, I will stop about 6 o'clock and do a demo on the patterns so that you guys can see these. I need to write that down because Dory the fish is my secretary, or I'm Dory the fish, I can't remember which, but I'm here and I'm writing notes. Notes are good. You like notes. Okay, so where did the Dory the fish instructor leave her pencil? A fountain pen, brush. I have tons and tons of pens in my desk and can't find a single one that actually writes. Multiple red pens, and I don't even know where they all go. Okay, so just start out with a red pen for my notes. Demo patterns. Okay, got that one. So I want you guys to take a couple, I want you to try some patterns in your designs this week. If you've already turned in your assignment and I've already graded it, that's okay. I want you to go in and try and play with it and make it look how would I say that? There's a lot that can be done with patterns that you can then take from Illustrator to Photoshop to affect your color changes for this week's assignment. So yeah, and have a lot of fun with it. It'll be great. So here's what the previews are looking like with their piece on top. So these are some really fun, subtle ones. I want to see if you guys can do some contrasting repeating elements. Alignment. This is where we create that visual roadmap. We're lining up the elements and we're guiding the viewers through the piece. Now, over the last year, I have started introducing my students to something called a process journal. It's a notebook about 3 by 5. You can get them 4 by 6, 5 by 7, just about any size. Walmart carries them. Michael's, I take out the, I think they're 4 by 6 size when I go to Hobby Lobby. And I usually pick up everything they have on the shelf for that size because my daughter uses them for school. I use them for taking notes and writing down great ideas. I use them for word trees, visual sketches of an idea I see that I want to implement or experiment with and want to try. So don't think I have any available at the moment that actually have any work in them that you can see, but we might try that tomorrow night. So guiding the viewer. We see, coming right into this, we see the dark background, see the light, and they're shining this down on the house. The rest of it's kind of, you know, in there. It's the background, but we're looking at where that moon is highlighting. So we have a really dark blue. Hi, Bruno. Welcome to class.
How's it going? Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you're fine. I figured everybody was going to go to Coffee with Creatives tonight and then be here around 6.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
We were talking about leading or guiding the viewer's eye. So when you look at this picture, what do you see your eye going to?
The light beam.
Yeah. So this is our kind of an alignment demonstration. So if you're to use color like they are here, what colors would you say are being used? I'm kind of tied between a green and a yellow, or a yellow and a blue.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of both.
Yeah. So they're kind of using a contrasting color, or at least the light and dark contrast, to get the viewer to look at that from the title to the house and bring the eye down. Now, when we start working on projects and we're not sure whether our eyes are being drawn to the right place or not, it's okay to take a pencil, and I love my pencils, and we can find out where we land. So this is going to be our landing point. Draw it down, that's all we see. Now, if we have other more complicated things, and since we read left to right, not right to left, it's okay to take a pencil over the top of your piece and think, oh, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to go. And that's how you lead your eyes through the project. However, if you're having issues, that's only if you're having issues. And it's okay to sit down and tell a small child is mostly the honest and most unhurtful critiquer you will ever have. They will tell you, ew, mommy, that looks weird. Why does it do that? And it's kind of hard to take that personally when it's a 5-year-old asking you the question. So it's okay to give them a red crayon and a printout of your design and say, okay, tell me where your eye lands next and where does it go from there? Because they are going to be able to tell you all of that just by their telling you, they're drawing on the paper. Because sometimes after we've been sitting there looking at it for a while, we can't see it. And I have discovered asking spouses or parents or somebody whom, you know, whose opinion I value and is in my everyday life is very, very hard to deal with. If I'd asked my dad how dinner was, I got a very crude answer if my cooking wasn't very good. I've actually had seen that man make my mother cry on a few occasions. He could be brutally honest. And since my husband is only 6 months younger than my mother, he kind of gets into that same thing. He will give me brutal honesty, even though he knows the correct principles. He takes those principles and his mind works a completely different way. So what I'm seeing going from left to right, he's seeing going, oh, I'm going up here, around here. And he's using clip art to demonstrate where everything is going. And I'm going, no, that's not the way we do this. So asking him for information or critiques usually lands me in trouble. So I contact a colleague. And in my area here, I use a lot of Skype and Zoom meetings with other graphic design instructors that are with the school, outside of the school. And then I go and look for the daycare children that my stepdaughter has. I take them crayons and a coloring page and say, okay, I want you to circle where your eye lands on the page. What's the next thing you see? sometimes I get differing answers depending on who's following directions and who's not. But I have found that rating the daycare kids for their opinions has been a lot more helpful to me than asking a family member. Kids can be brutally honest without hurting your feelings. And peers, you look for those critiques. Sometimes those family member critiques, they can hurt. Proximity. We're grouping elements like with like. It's kind of like the repetition, but we're keeping important information together. It's also going to be called hierarchy in some places. Depending on the design, you're going to see the big title. And Bruno, I looked at your discussion post, and you have the wonderful picture of Brave in the discussion.
Yes.
That is an absolutely excellent example of how that works.
Thank you.
Because you've got that nice bluish green background and her flaming red hair. You can't miss that.
No. And the complementary colors, and there's a lot going on there, you know.
There is a lot going on there. But when you take a look at your reply to mine today was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
That we see all of this at the very top. First we see her, then we see Brave. We might see Disney and Pixar, and then we've got the bear in the background and some trees. But Merida is front and center, and all they have to do is put the information. Change your fate, June 22nd. This is a great example of a simple poster to grab the audience attention. And they really did an awesome job working with it, because even if you get stuck in the back, we have all the little fairy lights leading you around. So I got to admit, I do love this movie.
It's a really good movie, good poster. You know, the action stands right at you, looking right at you. Everything is done very well.
Yeah, and it's kind of the thing we've come to expect from Pixar and Disney. Unless it's something like Star Wars, it's been branded back in the 70s. But there's no rebranding Star Wars by color. You just can't do it. It's black and white.
That's it. You know,
you can't do it. It would, upset the world order if they were to rebrand Star Wars at this point.
Yeah, you
because
can't.
It has it's a cult following. You cannot change that.
No.
And it would be worse.
If they change that intro at all, it would be horrible. They have to keep that same intro, with the, a long time ago in the galaxy with the same colors. They got to use the same font. It's got to stay the same. If they ever change that, man, it'd be a nightmare.
Not only would it would probably sink the film.
But we're all waiting for it.
I think it would sink the whole concept of the next movie if they were to do that, because there is such a cult following that nobody would realize that the colors had changed. So they're now looking for those colors. They're looking for the black and white Star Wars and that galaxy long ago and far, far away. So their whole brand is they're stuck with it. They're stuck with that 1970s font. They're stuck with the color scheme.
Works.
However, it works because they kept it simple.
That's right.
Hi, Darren. Welcome to class. I'm so glad you made
it. Hi. Yeah, I was in that Coffee with Creatives thing for a little while.
How was it?
It was okay. Learned a lot about being confident in your design and selling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And using the correct lingo.
Yeah. And owning your artwork. Don't let your client dictate what you're designing. If you're going to use certain colors, explain why. You're going to use certain pictures, explain why, and stand by your artwork. Stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It can be very, very difficult with that, though.
Yeah, I can see how you kind of have a headbutt match with your client if you're trying to sell one thing and they have something else in their mind, so that communication would really come into play by knowing what they want in what they're trying to achieve, you know?
Color continuity between what you see on a Mac computer and what others see on a PC computer may or may not be the same. They may not show up exactly the same, which is why we have all these wonderful little warnings on clothing websites that say colors may not exactly match what is presented on the screen. And then there was that whole argument about the white or blue dress a year or two ago. Do you guys remember that one?
Yes, yeah, the one that broke the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They swear it's a white dress. I can't see it. I'm going, that is not a white dress. I don't care what angle of color you're looking at or what filter you're using.
It was gold.
Yeah, the gold or blue. Yeah. And I couldn't see it. I was beginning to think I was going colorblind, and I'm going, what is wrong with this picture? I don't understand. But if I went on my PC, it worked just fine. But my Mac would not let me see the gold at all.
Yeah.
So when I have a client in Oklahoma City who has finally figured out that I know what the recipes are for individual colors. So she emailed me and said, "What's the color of my purple? What does it mean, color pathways for my purple?" Well, okay, here are the colors that are, I told her it's such and such color on RGB, and then gave her the numbers for CMYK so it would print out correctly on her printer, because her design firm did the logo, but I'm in charge of updating all the business cards, newsletters, letterhead, all that good stuff. And she happens to change her office every couple of years and then doesn't tell me the office location. It doesn't give me the address, but I'm still expected to get her business cards. So I take care of all the layout of the actual projects, but she prints all of her own letterhead and envelopes because her printer does that. Allows them to put the address in and do the mail merge for the whole letter thing. Then they just stuff it and it's done. So in order to make sure that they have the same color, they have to have those wonderful RGB recipes. And she's finally, after 5 years of me doing this through Zoom, she finally figured out that I can control her computer and teach her how to do this. And for me, teaching her how to do this is going to be far less expensive. And it doesn't require that I spend 8 hours a day on the phone with her telling her, okay, this is what I have on my screen. This is what you have on your screen. What does it look like? And she'll send me pictures from her phone, which may or may not be in natural daylight, maybe under yellow fluorescent lights. Nothing is going to match at that point. So being able to give my client the recipes for her purple is a lifesaver.
Absolutely.
So proximity, we're talking about scanning for the important info, and that this being like hierarchy, you guys are going to hear a lot of hierarchy coming up in the next few classes. And once you hit DES116, which is where I think you should be heading after this class, is graphic design 2, possibly. You might go into Flash or Animate or beginning web design. I'm not sure yet. But we'll probably find that out in week 4. But the hierarchy is really, really important, because if we don't have that, our clients, viewers, miss the message. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they are getting everything that they need out of that information. So before I get any more tongue-tied today, so where do you guys see the proximity here?
The word, the typography. And
Yeah, we got the typography.
Little designs is separated on the top half.
Mm-hmm.
I see that thin little line that's drawn diagonally.
Yeah, next to, parallel to the thicker teal line, which is just off enough to see a second image over the top.
Mm-hmm.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Where else is there some proximity?
The eye.
The eyes?
Yeah, the eye on the turquoise banner and her eye. It's a little off.
Yeah. Then we've got all this up here.
Yeah. And then you got
And then, go ahead. What?
the little logos at the bottom in the left bank or whatever.
Yep, exactly. We've got to keep all that information together and keep it from overwhelming the viewer's eye.
Yeah.
And this is a really good example of poster design. So, assignment 2. Bruno, I think you've already mastered that assignment.
I turned it in, I think today.
Yep, I've already graded it.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Wonder of wonders. I actually found time to do that.
Hope I did it right.
You did.
Good.
Do you mind if I share yours?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I love working on a Mac because it always tells me when something is going to work. If I try to open up the GIF just the way it is, it gives me each different panel. It doesn't actually animate it.
Oh.
So
I just drag and drop it into the browser, and that's how I was previewing them.
yeah. So I have to open it in Finder, do the whole open with, and we're going to go to Google Chrome and test it. And you did an excellent job on these. 10 is color with white.
Thank you.
So I think you've got all the panels in there. I've done 4 or 5 of these, and every time I change what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I did a couple of months ago are, where is it? 116. There's my GIF. So when I do the cool colors, I tend to go play with the tools
Mm-hmm.
that are in Photoshop instead of just trying to, you know, I have to play with things. Otherwise I get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So I play with the different shapes. I find different brushes, and each brush is like a stamp. You just change the color on it.
Yeah. Very nice.
So I find it fun to do the different ones. So let's go over this discussion post before we get into the assignment. So you're going to be analyzing the role color plays in the 4 design principles.
Okay.
And you can create or share examples of the following and explain your reasoning, because we always have to do that with our clients. Why did we use blue and gold? Why did the Denver Broncos have blue and orange? So how would you use color to support contrast within a poster design? For the most part, it's basically color.
Yeah.
You can use it to create hierarchy, can't you?
Well, that's going to come under repetition and proximity, or sorry, alignment. So how might color be used to support repetition within your poster design? That's everything from repeating the same color to using a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys hadn't shown up yet when I kind of went over this website, but I'm going to give you the link to it because it's for subtle patterns.
Okay.
Caroline Norton shared that with us. And while these are very simplistic, muted patterns, it also makes it very easy to create and see what they look like in the background. They're kind of got what looks like a simulated topography, and they're all very, very simple patterns. And we are going to learn how to do patterns tonight. How's that sound, guys?
Good. Real good.
as far as I know, these are all free to download, but being able to create your own subtle textures is going to take you a long way, because you can sell these things if you go to the right graphic design group like this one and submit a pattern or submit a font, that kind of thing. And I gave you guys the font self link, right? I think it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So turn on Photoshop level or Illustrator level rating. So all you have to do is explain color in contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And the alignment and proximity are going to work by grouping like with like. And that's where you're going to be creating your hierarchy. Oh, I think, oh, one more. So name, definition, the pure hue of the color, swatches for each, and then we're going to do that for tints, tones, and shades, and then also cool and warm colors. So Bruno has it all taken care of here. Got the red, adding white takes care of it. And I am just all over the place today. So there's your discussion post. The assessment, or not the assessment, the assignment is defining color, tints, tones, shades, cool and warm colors. And by the way, guys, since I have been so sick, and I'm so sick of myself being sick, you guys have until Sunday night to get all of your homework in. So no worries. I won't even be grading until maybe Tuesday night when we have class again. So I want you guys to remember to take your time, have some fun with it. And Bruno, since you've already done it, I want you to think about going in and playing with some of the patterns that we're going to play with tonight.
Okay.
You don't have to turn it in or anything, but I want you to think about how they can, or play with it for some practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can never get enough practice, right, guys?
That's right.
Right. Because these programs are what? They're musical instruments for our fingers. We have to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody becomes great in a day, which sadly, we all expect that. We all expect we're going to master it right now. And even with having done this assignment multiple times, I still struggle with it because I don't use animation in Photoshop very often.
That was the first time I ever used it.
When I first took my very first web design course, it was the first time I realized and was taught that Photoshop did illustration or animation. And I'm going, what?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It does video editing too.
I mean, it was massively mind-boggling that this was something that I could do. And I'm going, wait a minute. They told me animation required I learn code. What do you mean I can do it in Photoshop?
I know, it's crazy.
And I'm sitting there with a little tiny 2009 MacBook. It's not even a MacBook Pro. It's just a MacBook. It's a little white one.
Yep.
And I'm trying to do a 3D animation of my logo. And my poor little MacBook is just so tired. It can't do all the calculations to get this rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to my husband's computer and stole his iMac while he was out of town. So I think you guys are going to have some fun with this.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new document. And we're only going to use the one artboard. And let me see what the assignment says. There's not really any particular size. Well, file size for each is 3 by 5. You guys can do it horizontal or vertical. Kind of up to you. Bruno's, I think yours worked great with the horizontal. So it's whatever you guys want to play with.
Okay.
And somewhere in here, that's Illustrator. Okay, we have the 3x5. So you can do a 3x5 with 300 pixels per inch, and then you have the 3x5 72 pixels. That's where you're going to notice the change. Bruno's nice, big and wide, 300 pixels.
Yeah.
Makes the file size bigger. Mine, 72 pixels. They're exactly the same size. They just have fewer pixels per inch.
That's it. I always work.
That's all it is.
I don't know. It's a habit, I guess.
Yeah, well, when we're working with print, that's where we stay at. It's 300. We're not expecting to have to animate it.
Yeah.
But knowing that difference will change how your file gets uploaded into the system, because if your file is too big, it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it doesn't
So,
go fast.
I've had several students in the past going, I can't turn in my homework. And I'm going, did you save it with 72 pixels per inch? Did you do what I said about changing the file size and saving it separately? So if you guys are running into that problem, and especially when you're dealing with a client trying to get them to see, just make 2 copies of it and send them the smallest file size. Sometimes they don't understand this unzipping thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pick the 300 because it's fun to work with. Where did it go? We have a wonderful shape tool under one of these things. There's the custom shape tool. And not only can you find these, but you can create these yourself. You also have a ton of built-ins. So let's use the light bulb. I'm gonna append it. So whatever it puts in here is going to put it down here at the bottom, I think. Put it somewhere. There's my light bulb. We'll use this one. So if I hold my shift key down, I get a nice bright blue light bulb. Now, when we were here earlier, there was another light bulb right next to it that had the details. Now, if I could remember what I do with my properties. Properties, there we go. So properties on my shape should be giving me a color, but it's not. I kind of want to use a yellow in here. Okay, I should have created a new layer. So we're going to do Command Z and then put this second light bulb with its color. And I'm trying to match that pretty close. That's not too bad. can adjust it a little bit. Skewing it at this point is just to make it fit the background bulb. Kind of cool, right? Did you guys see how I managed to get the color to change? I know this, our wonderful Adobe software sometimes gives us funky things. Now, this is where we can have some fun with this. I can look at my blending options. Blend is blue. Underlying layer. You see what it's doing? It's overtaking the blue stroke. And since I have no blue in the top one, all I can adjust is my bottom one. So I have to be very careful with that. However, I can go with an inner shadow. And when I click on the inner shadow, I can change some of these to see if I can make them look less rubber stamped and more blended. Sometimes it works. And if we did an overlay and we change this color to gold, turn the opacity up. You just kind of play with it a little bit to see if it'll work. It's changing it some, but not necessarily in the ways I want it to. Maybe inner glow will work better. Did you guys know you can make your own gradients here?
Yeah, no.
So when you open up that gradient, all you do is click on it. And all you have to do is click on the bottom one. And it will take you to the color and you can adjust it from there. You can also add a color. And I can even make this one more purple. And then I can add another color here and make this a bit more orange. Okay. I can also change these from black to white, change my smoothness. And gradient type. No, we don't like the noise. I don't like the noise. But okay. The frustrating part of this, you go to all that work and it may or may not actually show up on your shape. It's maddening. So it tells me I've got my path, I've got my shape. If I want to change the color of my light bulb, the background piece, then double click on it. And I'm going to choose a little bit darker yellow. Now, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be my hue for this week. So yellow is my hue, my base color. And I have these. So I need to add white to make them lighter. Oh boy, I've made it complicated. What, oh my, am I to do? I can group them with a Command G or Control G if you're on your PC. And I can create a new layer using just the shape. And I think I'm just going to keep the light bulb simple. And while I'm in here, I'm going to make sure I have a very nice, clear, bright yellow. Makes sense, right? We're turning the light bulb on and off.
Yeah.
Sort of, anyway. So what I'm going to do here is then Command J. I'm actually going to leave it alone. This is kind of up to you guys. I'm going to double click on it. And if I go this way, I'm adding white. So I just stay close to the top, select my color. And if I don't notice enough change between the current and the new color, I'm just going to keep moving it down a little bit until I have enough of a noticeable change. So there's a noticeable change. And then we're going to do Command J. And then this is probably going to be a little paler. Okay, so I've got all three of my shapes. Now I have to do a layer with some text. So we're going to write tints. And I am going to make sure that this is a very bright yellow color. So I know my colors are all over here. It already changed it. Now, if you want, you can make this contrasting. What's the contrasting color to yellow on the color wheel? Anybody know?
Green, I thought, wasn't it?
That's next to it on the color wheel. That would make it an analogous color.
Yeah.
Or as my husband says, analogous. I think he likes to mispronounce things just to drive me insane. Purple is actually right across the color wheel from yellow. So we can actually make our contrasting color purple. Shows up a little bit better. And I have a feeling that having purple text over this pale white or pale yellow is going to actually work pretty well. Because if I turn these off, you can see it more. And then we're going to have another layer with our definition. Now you guys have to write your own definitions about what a tint is. And it's basically tints have white added. Yeah, don't follow my example in spelling. And we, under no circumstance, really need it this big. So we're just going to resize it. Okay, so now I have everything I need. It's going to have 5 different elements to the animation. But I want to rearrange them a little bit. I want my tints to show up first. And then I want my definition to show up. Changing its arrangement in the layers isn't going to make much of a difference because it's not touching anything. But you see how it affects the tints?
Yep.
Puts them behind it. We can change that here. We can also change that in our animation panel. So what we're going to do is called timeline. If you've ever worked in Flash, this is going to be, or Animate, this is going to look really familiar. So what we're going to do is we're going to create frame animation based off of our layers. So choose. So we can change our thumbnails. Now, why aren't you working? Okay, so there's our animation, 0 seconds. I'm going to go to other. What I want, aha, my artboard. This little button down here is going to take you from just having everything playing at the same speed to everything playing individually. So while I know I have my tints here, I can actually rearrange them, and it changes over here on my timeline. So what I want to do is adjust my pictures or my layers so that they come out at the right time. And where is tints? I kind of want this one to stay all the way through the animation. And we don't need group 1 because it's not being seen. There's no animation to it. So when I click back to here, you see I now have 5-second frames. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 times. 25 seconds I have to sit here. And that may not seem like a long time, but it actually is. So we are going to change the timeline to about 1 second. And we can do this as other. Type in 1. And there is also the ability to set this up so that it affects all of them. Then we're going to hit the play button. What do you think?
Pretty cool.
Looks good.
Does it look as hard as it sounds?
No.
I know Bruno's mastered this already. I should have made you teach it.
I never even knew this program was capable of it, but you know, once I got in there and started playing with it, I got some Adobe Premiere background with timelines and editing, but I didn't know this program did that. And it was pretty simple. You get in there and you can change all. What I noticed though, how I did it was I ended up making all the individual slides at one thing. That's what I did. I each one of them saved them individually into a certain folder. And then I went up to File, and then I hit Scripts, and then I loaded them in, and then I made them stack them, and then it threw them all into the timeline at the same time, which was pretty cool. And then you just can go in there and like you did with the different times. But if you hold Shift down and select like a whole bunch of them, it'll change all the time. So it's easy. All of them. Yeah, because like, you know, the first intro one, I wanted it to come in at a certain time to, you know, each letter to hit in place. And then once the letters were there, I wanted it to freeze for a second. And then I wanted it to go different for the rest of it, and the colors came in. So changing them individually is cool, you know, but it was pretty simple. Once you get in there, start playing around with it, you get the idea. And
and if you've played with GarageBand or iMovie or any of the other Adobe or the Apple products that come in your MacBook, this timeline is the same.
No.
So the same. Apple kind of makes it complicated and less complicated at the same time. Yeah. And I'm all about finding the easiest way to get to the end product.
And I did mine on a Windows computer, and my Windows computer is like 4 or 5 years old. It's kind of slow. You know, I was using a trial version of Photoshop because then I scripts ran out. So I was hoping that I'd be able to get through that at least, and it worked pretty good. Even on a Windows computer that's about 4 or 5 years old, still held up pretty well.
Yeah. So the saving of this part is where it gets complicated.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're going to save it as a PSD file because you always keep your native files because you might want to use them in your portfolio later.
Mm-hmm.
DES250 may not sound that far away, but it is. It's right around the corner.
Especially if you turn your projects in early and then you get some feedback and have to change something, you can go back in there and change it. You know.
Well, you don't have to worry about changing anything. You've met all the criteria. I just want you to go play some more.
That's what I was wondering if, you know, I wanted to make sure that I got it right because I didn't see the live lecture yet. And I was hoping that I followed the instructions perfectly, but I wanted to make sure sometimes those instructions, you can be a little vague. So, but this was in this situation, I'm happy it worked out. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we're going to do patterns next. So I'm saving it, just naming it tense because we are going to put it in a new folder, which is going to be DES116, last name. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do. But I want to leave the DES116 on here because when you go into Finder and you search for a class, say your SPA has come to you with a wonderful email that says, you need to send me all of your portfolio files so I can critique them for DES250. Uh-oh. My files are scattered all over my computer because Professor Cowles told me that I needed to save all of my native files and set up all this wonderful organization for me, but I didn't follow it. So how am I going to figure out what I did? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your student portal and pull up your temporary transcripts. That'll tell you what classes you've taken. And if you follow the naming conventions on the assignment, you can type in DES116 and everything in your computer, including emails with instructors, videos. I've got Excel sheets with contact information for students, and apparently last month's homework assignment, or mod 8 homework assignments for some students. But anything that says DES116 is right here, readily available for me.
Wow.
And that works with everything you want to find. So say I have an email from my boss with Civil Air Patrol, and he's wanting me to finish the project I'm supposed to be working on that's due by the 30th. And I don't remember what I'm supposed to be doing or what template I'm supposed to be using. I can just type in his last name, and it will give me every email that he has had sent me or has been sent to us as a group email.
Oh.
So I can then go in, figure out, follow my breadcrumbs, which are right here. So it's in a library, group containers, office, profiles. I finally get to messages. Somewhere around there it's a 71. And I can then right click on it and open it.
Cool.
So if I've lost something important because, you know, I'm scatterbrained like Dory the fish and I have forgotten what I'm doing, anything that is related to a project that I'm supposed to be doing, I can put it in that search bar and find it. And when you are panicking at DES250 about where on earth you saved all those files to, because you have Google Drive, you have Dropbox, you have OneDrive, and then you've got all of these wonderful little external hard drives. And then apparently I have my husband's PC, his that's my printer, his printer, and his iMac. So I can go through all of these and find what I'm looking for. My house is very, very strange.
Yeah, well, I
It's
understand.
smarter than I am.
I understand having to have different means of storage because I've got a notification today that my memory is just about full because I save everything to my computer.
Now, I'll show you guys what I do. I use the backup time machine, which is part of your part of your software in Apple. So I don't have it turned on at the moment, but Time Machine allows you to set up an external hard drive, which is really cool because then it gives you a timeline. And I can go all the way back to September 3rd, 2016, when I plugged in this particular hard drive.
Mhm.
Double click it, and come on. Why aren't you going? Oh, I know why. Desktop. Being on the desktop instead of in Seagate makes it a little easier. Come on.
Gotta give me one of those again. I broke my other one. Lost everything.
Now this poor file here is just an experiment that is just deteriorating quickly. But I can use that timeline to go back, and it tells me right now here I'm in October of 2017, and I should be able to take my desktop all the way back to that September 2016 date. Now that doesn't mean that all of my files have stayed there, because I don't like keeping things on my desktop. Let's say I want my Rocky Mountain region patch, which is the regions of Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Utah. And we create one region. My wing is Wyoming. And they keep asking me to redo everybody's patches. I have a real problem with getting the text wrap to work. So they always end up having the printers fix it. So what do I want to do with this? It asks me. I can hit the restore button, and it brings it right up on my desktop where it was originally saved at. And then I can go in and open it. But as for the portfolio files, I put them in a folder all by themselves, name them portfolio files. I have my pictures, anything that is included in that, and it all gets zipped. So portfolio backups, that's the zip. And then once I have that done, I can delete this portfolio backup folder. And I know everything is safe and sound inside the zip folder. So I have my documents. And here is advanced color theory. And now I can pull up my handfuls of color poster that I did for advanced color theory. My daughter's third grade class thought this was just the coolest poster in the whole world.
It is pretty cool.
The inspiration hit me because I was in the candy store in front of the Jelly Belly jelly bean dispenser thing.
That's what I thought of when I first saw it. That'd be cool to trace every one of their flavors onto a chart, make an infographic.
Yeah, and this is an infographic when you think about it.
It is, yeah. I mean, imagine how many flavors and colors they got. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I went through and I matched my headline font the closest to the Jelly Belly jelly bean logo as I could get. Mm-hmm. And then trying to figure out a way to make the white text show up on the yellow without using a black stroke, which annoyed this particular professor to the extreme when I tried it.
Mhm.
So we just left it alone. It was safer that way. And sometimes you run into that. But because I don't have the original file anymore, but I know where I have my PDF saved, I can right click on it and I can say open with Adobe Illustrator, which is where I created it. And I don't have Pacifico, so I need to sync the fonts so they show up correctly, and these wonderful pink little boxes will go away.
Mhm.
And then I can hit close because it's now corrected. And now I have the ability to come in here and edit it. And I know what font it is. It's Pacifico. And for those fonts that are created and outlined for that text, I can highlight it and now change the colors on it. And I have the original. I can now save it or add a little bit more tracking to this eye.
Mhm.
And I can save as the Illustrator file, and I can put it in my jelly or my advanced color theme. Oh, I want to cancel that. I don't want a PDF. I want to save as an Illustrator file. Can also save it as an encapsulated PostScript file or an SVG file. These are both openable by CorelDRAW. And we had that talk last week about how CorelDRAW crashes on you every time you open it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. So now I've got it. My poster is now resurrected from the dead.
Mhm.
And when I go into here, I will see that my color wheel is right where it should be. And I can go back in and edit it now, where I would have to change up a few things if I tried to do that now.
Hmm.
There's at least one other project in here I can't work with because I don't have all of the pieces to it, because I didn't package the file, zip it, and throw away the original to save space. I don't really have that problem anymore. I try and keep each of my clients on thumb drives, and I don't have a whole lot of them. If they're not on thumb drive, they're on Google Drive. But patterns is what we wanted to play with. And I'm just going to use my regular 8x8 boards. So, sorry, throat. Trying to keep enough stuff in my mouth to
Keep your
actually
throat
work.
keep your throat from drying out.
Yeah,
Scratchy.
honestly, it feels like I have swallowed a bottle of rubber cement.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is why I was not going to talk last night, because it was just getting worse and worse.
Well, you don't sound too bad coming from this end.
Well, it's taken about a week of no talking around here. Do you have any idea what it's like to be told you can't yell at your teenagers? What do you mean I can't yell?
So get a dry erase board and write in all caps.
Oh, I just send them text messages.
In all caps with exclamation points.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, they just love it when I do that. They know they're in big trouble if I have bothered to hit all caps. Because it was only recently that Apple actually gave us the ability to have all caps.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is monochromatic color. You guys are going to pick this up if you go into the bachelor's program and are working with the advanced color theory. So monochromatic are the tints, tones, and shades of a single color. Then we have triadic color. These form a triangle on your color wheels. So in this case, it would be orange, green, and purple.
Mhm.
This one is, I believe, contrasting color.
Complete
We have
opposite.
yellow and purple. And then this one was the analogous color, and that's colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so for patterns, what kind of pattern do we need to make, guys? Give me some ideas.
Stars and stripes.
Okay, we could do that.
Simple, easy, quick to learn.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create our star, and just going to use a simple 5-pointed one. And I'm going to make it pretty big because I want to be able to use it later. So I'm going to turn the fill off. So I just have black and white. And then I'm going to turn my layer off. Add a layer, then turn it off. And we wanted to do stripes. So what color stripes? Red and blue?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. So
Make
I'm
them
going to take, I'm going to go from bleed to bleed, holding my shift key down. Hold on. Sorry about that, guys. I was not expecting that.
Okay.
Wow, you sounded pretty rough right there.
Yeah. And this was a good one.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm just making my stroke size bigger to accommodate whatever size I want. And then I can click on the bar, hold my Alt key down or Option key, and I can do this. And I'm not going to make them all too regular because I'm going to change it up here in a second. So I'm going to do another one. And this is not copy and pasting, so it doesn't really add anything to my clipboard. So if my computer is suddenly shutting down because I'm doing all this copying and pasting, that won't happen with this one. Which is kind of why I like this idea, but much better than copy and paste. So again, it's click on the red bar, hold the Alt key down and drag. And I just make sure I'm lining up with the bleed as close as I can get. Because the more fidgeting I do now with this, the better off it'll be. So I can take this, make sure it lines up, and to make sure that they are all aligned correctly, I get to use my alignment tools. So if I want them all aligned on the text box center axis, I'm actually going to pull open the alignment panel here because I like it better. And I want to align it to the artboard. So they're all going to center up and now they look beautiful. And I'm going to evenly distribute them. Cool, right?
Yeah.
So now I have all of these and I have my wonderful star pattern. I'm going to bring these down so that they're underneath. I'm going to do a Command A. That is not what I wanted to do. Must have hit the Z. Command A. There we go. So everything is selected. I'm going to go to Object. Right after I just double check and make sure everything is where I want it to be. Object. Not pattern. Clipping mask. Make. Okay, so the reason I had to have my clipping mask, the star layer on the bottom or on the top instead of the bottom, is because it's like the cookie cutter. It's the one that puts the pattern into that mask. All of my pieces are still here. If I hover on the center of the lines, I can see where they still go. If I double click on them, I can enter the isolation mode and move that one piece individually. Cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now watch what happens when I try to rotate this star. Because it's not exactly as centered as I'd like it to be. Do you notice the difference in the way the lines are behaving?
Following the rotation.
They're following the clipping mask in the rotation. So even though I created that all straight, it's just following along. So I'm going to keep it kind of on the edge there, and I'm going to put a stroke on the outside. And we're just going to do black. And I just want enough stroke there so that it's noticeable, so it'll fill in my missing pieces. So we still have the star piece. And because the star has no actual fill, I can't select it in the white pieces. If I want to change that, I go back into that isolation group again, and I choose white as my fill. Now, it didn't change the way it looks or anything, but when I exit out of my clipping mask, I will now be able to select on it, theoretically. No, it didn't work. So I can either fill it back up. Now I've got white fill in here. I can see it on the background. It's just not letting me select it. I have to select on the line. So we've got this wonderful star shape with a pattern inside it. And now we're going to make it a pattern. But I want to make it a symbol first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole thing, and I'm going to drag it over to my symbols panel. I don't want to make it a movie clip because it's very unlikely I will ever use animation again, unless it's in Photoshop. I click OK, and now I have this symbol. It's going to look really, really big when I use the symbol sprayer because it has all this excess from the stripes. I'm okay with that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to shrink this now that I have it into a pattern. And now I'm going to make the pattern. And this will show you why I wanted the background filled. Okay, so I've got my piece here. I'm going to go to Object, Pattern, Make. Pattern been added to the swatches panel. Now it shows me I've got a lot of space in here around the one star. I can correct that by doing a copy and a paste. And I can rotate my stars a little bit. And then I can do another paste. And I'm basically just making sure the important pieces are touching, but I want to try and keep them in the border as much as possible. Okay, so I've got 3 stars. They're looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. They're nice and clustered. Now I can brick them by row, by column, just to give it a little bit more visual interest. And then I can do hex by column. This one gives me a tighter fill. I'm doing more overlapping as it goes. And then I can do hex by row, which gives me even more visual interest. But I think the one I like the most was the brick by column. And I can change the offset of my brick a little or a lot. But I think it's going to stick at 1/2. So it puts a star in the center of 2 clusters. So once I'm all done, I click done. Now I can take my star that we've been working on, which is right here. And I have a nice pattern. And I fill it with our pattern now. This is where it gets kind of funky. I did not tell it to do something, so I'm going to go back in here. And if I size my tile to art, it's a little bit bigger or smaller depending on the piece. And that's right. What did I do? Something changed. So I'm done. So we now have our nice, lovely swatches. And you notice how it changed when I re-clicked on the pattern after I adapted it?
Yeah, it rotates with it.
Yeah. So if I'm not sure I want it to, that it's looking correct, or I want a different view on the patch, on the swatch, I just refill in and it fixes it. How cool is that? So now I have this really cool pattern that I'm probably just going to save here in this document, but I am going to move everything off the board. And you'll notice I cannot fill the rest of the star shape in. Can't do it because my fill is that pattern.
Right.
So we want to make a pattern that's a single color for our Photoshop to work in that tints and tones. So we're going to pick, I'm going to do a rectangle. And we're going to make it purple. And I want use some yellow polygons. I'm just going to make sure they turn yellow. And guys, I'm not going to make this a requirement. This is fun. So I want you to play with it and get used to some of the tools.
Okay.
So if I hold my Alt key down, it gives me a skewed and reflected version of what I'm actually trying to do. But if I hold my Shift key down, it makes it scale. So Alt and drag, rotate, and scale. And you'll notice the black around the edges changes with it. So I've got a nice grouping of 3. Now I'm going to group them, Alt and drag and rotate a little bit. Or I can go to Object and rotate or reflect. If I do it vertical, it just gives me exactly the opposite. I can line it up, make it look like a pair of wings, and then do the same thing down here. So it would be Object, reflect. This time I'm going to do it horizontal, and I'm going to do a copy of it. So now I can bring these 2 up, and I can overlap them a bit. And if I'm not liking the way this black is working, I can come into the isolation mode and line it up. Makes it sound a whole lot easier than it should be, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You would think this would be really, really complicated. And we'd never want to do this again, right? But because this is grouped, I can now inch it closer with my arrow keys so that it looks just like the other side now. Everything's measured out. I can move this one over a tad bit. And now I have a very stylized purple graphic. I am going to make sure that this does not have a stroke. And make sure my purple lines up. So then I'm going to select it all. And I'm going to add this graphic to my libraries. And that's this wonderful Adobe Creative Cloud Library link thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take all of this, drag it right over here. So there's my colors. It's vector smart art at this point. So now I can come back over to Photoshop, where I forgot to finish saving this. And Darren, I am terribly sorry, but we're going to save this correctly before I forget. So we are going to save this Photoshop file under Export, Save for Web, Legacy. That means everybody will be able to open it. We're going to take it to GIF. You don't really have to have any dither, but 32 is the smallest file size. And we're not using a whole lot of different colors here, so it's not going to matter a whole lot. So we want to play our animation, make sure our colors are changing. It's all working. And then I save it. I'm going to put it on my desktop. This is the hard part of it, is getting that GIF saved. Once I have that GIF saved, go to Desktop, Tense, and because I did it right, it shows up in my previews. I right-click on it, I can open it up in Chrome, and there's our light bulb. We had a bright idea today. So now I'm going to create a new one so we can play with this pattern a bit. And I'm just going to use the one we did before. I'm going to close this panel because I don't really want to animate anything. But you see I've got artboards here. I can make my artboards bigger or smaller depending on what I need. But I can now take this out of my library, and instead of cutting and pasting it, I now know where it is, how big it's supposed to be, and I can make my artboard fit my art. And because it's got this little cloud piece on it, did you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
I can double click it, and it takes me right into Illustrator. I've got my original right here, but it gives me the one that's saved in the library. And I can come in here and change my fill colors, say green. And when I hit Command S or Control S if you're on a PC, it updates in the creative libraries. Then I can go back over to Photoshop, and that's what it does. It automatically updates it for you.
That's cool.
It's a lot of tricks.
It is a lot of tricks. I've gone over an immense amount of tools in 45 minutes.
Yes, you did.
Even with the copy fit.
I will be replaying this video.
But you guys are getting some of the tools that I wish I had known about earlier. So I'm really glad I'm getting to share all of this with you guys, from the clipping masks that I didn't even understand that you could make those until a year out of college.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do. That's for sure.
I'm going, what do you mean I could do a clipping mask in Illustrator? That's not possible. That's a vector, not a raster. And Dana Alderman, you guys are probably either will have or have had her for our class. She's teaching DES116 right now. That she was one of the tutors that taught me some of my tricks. And she's going, no, Terry. Yeah, she says, no, you really can do a clipping mask. I'm going, but that's Photoshop and this is Illustrator. They get glued by InDesign. I do not comprehend. This does not compute. And she walked me through it several times till I got the clipping mask. And then I realized, oh, animal prints.
You can do
And I just about had an aneurysm because I realized that in my libraries for my swatches, it's actually in the swatch libraries, we have nature. We have foliage. We have landscape, seasons. We even have earth tones, food colors, but in the patterns, I have nature, which is foliage and skins. And I got so excited because I have been a referee for ages for roller derby. And I had to retire this year because of a bulging disc that's about to herniate in my spine. And they said, no, you can't play with that anymore. Put the skates away. You'll hurt yourself. You're no fun. So then I found out, oh, I can make my own artwork. So what I did is I opened an account on Redbubble. You guys ever heard of Redbubble?
Nope.
Okay. Redbubble is a website where you can upload your artwork to sell to others.
Oh, wow.
Either as a scarf, painting smock, t-shirts, anything at all. So what I did is I created my own profile and I started looking at things. And I got really big into fractals a couple of years ago. So these fractals are created by a program called J Wildfire. And then I would take them, and it's a JavaScript program, kind of confusing. But after I got these fractals created, I would zoom in on one piece of it. And fractals are all mathematically based. So every time you take them into Photoshop, you're taking in a vector and you have to rasterize it. But once it was rastered, I could go in there and put bubbles and change the lighting and do all kinds of funky things to a segment of that fractal. And this is what I would come up with. So after I figure out, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the apparel I want to offer. Oh, sure, I'm going to add iPhone cases to that. I'm going to do framed art. I'm going to do coffee mugs. I still really want to get this throw pillow. I just haven't done it yet. But I can also do notebooks. And I think this one turned out one of the best. I have yet to sell any of these.
Really?
Nothing yet?
The laptop skins, nothing, none of my fractal artwork has sold, which, you know, is kind of disappointing.
Or you can use social media to advertise, right? You do that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like try to push ads and stuff and let people know about it. And
I've even got my own business website on Facebook. I just don't spend enough time on it. That's my problem.
yeah, because I could see these selling a lot, you know.
But the one thing that does sell is this one. I should have called it Derbyographer because it's for a photographer who shoots roller derby.
Oh.
And these guys risk a lot to get out there, and they're not on skates or anything, but they get so close to the line to get these skaters jumping and landing on the apex of the curve.
Yeah.
That they could risk $1,000 camera just by laying on the floor because there's 4 referees skating around them on the inside track and 3 on the outside. And we're not responsible if we bowl them over. That's their fault. They got in the way. We're watching the skaters, not the photographer.
Oh my gosh.
So every now and then I get sales for stickers, t-shirts, and hoodies. I'm still waiting for a photographer to come out and say, yes, I am going to wear my Derbygrapher leggings to a game.
The site takes care of all that stuff, though, making it and shipping it, right?
I get about 3%, and most of this Mine's, these are stickers, and these are sold all over the UK for some strange reason. They like their stickers.
Wow.
So for every $2.40 made, I get maybe 25 cents per sticker, which I'm okay with because I did it for fun. But this is a really great way to get your name out there. And if I were to do more vector artwork that was related to derby photographers, I'm pretty sure it would sell.
There's a site like this called Cafe Press, right? Is that what it's called? I think they do the same kind of thing.
There's a couple of sites out there. I know there's a couple of other instructors that do Redbubble. Redbubble was the first one that I was introduced to while I was going through this fractal phase.
Yeah.
But the Derby Grapher and the other one was T-Fury that I did end up selling enough t-shirts. And it was a picture of a zebra that had been live traced, all the white taken out so that you could see the t-shirt in the background. And it says, "Go ahead and blame me. It's all my fault anyway." Because, you know, games are won or lost by the attention the referees paid to the skaters.
That's right.
Or the football players or to the baseball. It's always the referee's fault.
That's right.
So when I decided to do what?
It's never the player's
fault. Yeah, it's never the player's fault. Just like it's never the teenager's fault, it's always mom's fault. You know, so I figured the shirt hit me on so many levels. I just had to design one and keep it.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting these out here, and I gave them the option of these bright orange shirts for their safety on the track.
Makes sense.
I thought neon orange for a derby photographer and a roller skate with a camera lens on it would be the safest thing for them to be wearing, except for when they play. There's a game with the Cheyenne Capitals, and their home color is Hunter Safety Orange. So, but these are the things when you guys are sitting there with your patterns and you're playing with them and you're trying to find contrasting colors, think about the applications that they could be used for. I've already turned one roller skate into a pair of leggings.
Wild.
And they pretty much did it all for me. All I had to do was come up with the initial design and tell them what colors I wanted. And I told them, "Oh, have fun. Do it in all colors."
You can even buy a bunch of these yourself and then take them to the games and sell them in a stand or something, right? Make a little money that way.
I could, yes.
Yeah.
However, the price for it is not really worth it for me.
Okay.
So,
you do a deal since you're the designer on the products, or?
Oh yeah, I get like a 10-15% discount on them, but it's not really worth it for me to have a stock when I have the little skinny mini jammers that they turn sideways. They're going to slip through the hardwood flooring.
Yeah.
And then I have the strong and curvy made for derby girls with hips that, you know, they swing them the wrong direction, they're going to take out half the pack.
Sure, you got to carry a lot of different sizes and.
Exactly. I have to carry everything from XX small to 6X large.
Yeah, it's true. It's got to have a lot of stuff.
And preferably as long as possible.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, I have been refereeing games where a teammate has grabbed onto their partner's leggings to whip themselves around, and it'll always be one of the bigger girls.
Oh, yeah.
That they're doing this because they have the balance to do this. They have the low center of gravity. And then apparently one of my good buddies, her name is Doppelganger, decided that a certain type of underwear was appropriate for sporting events, and she lost her pants clean down to her knees in the middle of a jam. So I'm going, why, oh, why did I have to be the rear of the outside pack? I did not need to know about lime green in that position at all. So yes, we are now promoting the fact that derby girls with hips need longer t-shirt lengths, because we don't want to see that repeated again.
No,
Not only is it embarrassing for the referee that has to call her out of the game so she can have time to pull her pants up, but we don't want that to happen in the first place.
no.
So, but yeah, this gives you guys a chance to get your names out there, share some of the artwork that you're creating in Illustrator, including the patterns that you're making. And when you do that, all you really have to do is come up with the pattern itself. That way, when you decide to do something like a laptop skin or sleeve, they create the pattern for you. So I think so far I have sold a coffee mug, some stickers, and a couple of t-shirts. They usually start coming out about Christmas. I'm really expecting the fact that I could do duvet covers in these. I thought they would be a lot of fun. But I'm not sure how I would feel about sleeping under a set of roller skates. That could be dangerous.
Is the quality good? The stuff they make it on? Pretty good
As far as I've been able to tell, yeah, I've gotten really decent product reviews on the items themselves. And for a nice quality custom printed duvet cover, this is a better price for me than if I were to go buy 1,500 thread count duvet cover from Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's a custom design. So
True.
the only place you can get it is at Redbubble, or, go through me. But that's the whole point of graphic design, is for you guys to be able to make money and get your name out there and say, oh, these are my sales. They count towards my work experience.
Very true.
For me, this goes towards my faculty development plan because I've sold t-shirts.
Yeah.
It's a way for me to stay out there and keep updating my work, keep updating my experience without having to maintain a storefront or a item stock that I may or may not sell.
True.
So get those designs out there that you think are cool. Start playing around with them. Have some fun with it.
Absolutely.
So, well, do you guys want to continue for another 2 hours tonight, or come back tomorrow night at 6?
I need a break.
You need a break?
Yeah, my little boy's about to go to bed, so I got to cut out.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start again. Is 5 o'clock good tomorrow for you guys, or do you want 6? I haven't.
Well, I might have to watch the recording because it's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm not going to be here.
Oh, you can't even come in and get a virtual cupcake?
Send me one through my email.
Okay, I'll blow up your email with virtual cupcakes.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
No problem.
But you have a good night, Darren. And Bruno, what's a good time for you tomorrow night? I have intro to Mac at 5 to 6, and then I'm done.
Anything you want.
So I can meet you in here at 6.
Huh? Yeah, it's fine. 6 o'clock?
Yeah, hopefully by then my voice will rest up again and we'll be ready to go.
Sounds good.
You guys have a good night. And Darren, I will email you a link to tomorrow's lecture as soon as I get it ready, okay?
That'll work. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Hope you feel better.
Thanks. Get better every day, just a little bit better.
That's right. A little bit at a time.
I just got to remember to take it slow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Easy.
So you guys have a good night, and we will talk more about this stuff and some other tools tomorrow night.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
See you then.
Night, guys. Night.